The Devil Made Me Do It, Arne Johnson, and America's Trial. A man with no motive attacks his landlord in broad daylight, then claims a demon controlled him. This is the trial that stunned America. Long before the courtroom became a theater for the supernatural, before the phrase, "The devil made me do it," entered the American consciousness as something more than a joke, there was a parking lot in Brookfield, Connecticut. February 16, 1981. A dog grooming salon, witnesses standing frozen, and a 19-year-old man named Arne Johnson standing over his landlord, Alan Bono, who bleeds out on the pavement from multiple stab wounds. The weapon remains in Arne's hand. His girlfriend Debbie Glatzel screams. Arne looks down, and in that moment, according to those who see his face, he appears confused, genuinely, profoundly confused, as if he has just woken from a dream he cannot remember. The police arrive within minutes. Arne does not run, he does not resist, he offers no explanation because he has none to give. Alan Bono passes away shortly after arrival at the hospital. The arrest is routine. A young man with no criminal record, no history of violence, no apparent motive, has taken a life in front of multiple witnesses. Open and shut, except it is not. Because what leads Arne Johnson to that parking lot begins months earlier in a rented house in Brookfield with an 11-year-old boy named David Glatzel. David is Debbie's younger brother. In the summer of 1980, the Glatzel family moves into a new home. Almost immediately, David begins experiencing nightmares. He wakes screaming. He describes an old man with dark eyes who visits him at night, who threatens him, who tells him terrible things. His parents dismiss it as childhood fear. Then the physical marks appear, scratches, bruises. David claims the old man is hurting him. The nightmares intensify. David begins speaking in voices that do not belong to a child. He convulses. He exhibits strength beyond his years. The family, devout Catholics, contact their priest. The priest observes David and contacts the diocese. What follows are a series of religious interventions, blessings, prayers, and eventually, multiple exorcism rituals conducted over the course of several months. Ed and Lorraine Warren enter the case at the request of the Glatzel family. They document the possessions. They record the exorcisms. Lorraine, a clairvoyant, reports sensing a powerful inhuman presence surrounding the boy. Ed films the sessions, takes notes, interviews witnesses. Clergy members participate. The exorcisms are not Hollywood spectacles. They are hours-long prayers, scriptural readings, commands issued in Latin and English. David writhes. He speaks in languages he does not know. He describes things he should not be able to see. Arne Johnson, Debbie's boyfriend, witnesses many of these sessions. He is present during one particularly intense exorcism when David's body contorts, when the voice emanating from him becomes guttural and mocking. Arne, according to multiple witnesses, including Ed Warren, steps forward and issues a challenge. He tells the entity to leave the child. He dares it to enter him instead, to take him if it must take someone. In the weeks that follow, David Glatzel improves, the nightmares lessen, the physical attacks stop, the voice goes silent, the family exhales, but Arne Johnson begins to change. Debbie notices it first. Moments when Arne seems absent, his eyes vacant, staring at something she cannot see. He reports seeing the same old man David described, the dark eyes, the malevolent presence. He experiences episodes he cannot explain. Blackouts, lost time. Debbie hears him speaking during sleep, voices that do not sound like Arne, words in cadences foreign to him. The Warrens document these changes. Lorraine reports sensing the same presence around Arne that she felt around David. Ed believes what has happened is a transference. The entity has accepted Arne's challenge and has begun a campaign of demonic oppression, potentially progressing toward full possession. Then February 16 arrives. Arne and Debbie are at the dog grooming business managed by Debbie's employer, Alan Bono. Bono has been drinking. There is a disagreement, minor, nothing that predicts violence. Then, according to witnesses, Arne's demeanor shifts. His face changes. One witness describes his eyes as not his own. He retrieves a knife. He attacks Bono with a ferocity that shocks everyone present. The assault is sudden, brutal, and inexplicable. When it ends, Arne stands motionless. The confusion on his face is genuine. He has no memory of the attack. He does not understand how the knife came to be in his hand. He does not understand why Alan Bono lies dying at his feet. The arrest makes local news. A tragic, senseless act of violence in a quiet Connecticut town. Then the defense team contacts Ed and Lorraine Warren. And the case transforms into something unprecedented in American legal history. Arne Johnson's attorney, Martin Manella, prepares a defense never before attempted in a United States court: demonic possession. The argument is straightforward. Arne Cheyenne Johnson was not in control of his actions on February 16, 1981, because an inhuman entity had possessed him. The Warrens provide months of documentation, recordings, photographs, clerical testimony, witness statements from the Glatzel case. Ed Warren agrees to testify. The media descends. The case becomes international news. Headlines scream, religious groups debate, skeptics dismiss, legal scholars watch with fascination. The prosecution argues the defense is a fabrication, a calculated attempt to manipulate the jury through superstition and fear. The defense argues that the evidence is overwhelming, that multiple clergy members, multiple witnesses, and months of documented supernatural activity prove that something inhuman targeted David Glatzel, accepted Arne's challenge, and ultimately drove Arne to commit an act he would never have committed in his right mind. Ed Warren takes the stand. He testifies to what he witnessed: the possessions, the exorcisms, the voices, the physical phenomena, Arne's challenge, the subsequent changes in Arne's behavior. He presents the case methodically, factually, without embellishment. He explains what demonic possession is according to Catholic theology. He explains the progression from infestation to oppression to possession. He explains why he believes Arne was not acting of his own free will on February 16. The judge listens, the courtroom listens, the world listens, and then the judge rules. The demonic possession defense cannot be presented to the jury as a formal defense. The judge determines that allowing such a defense would open the door to chaos. Any defendant could claim supernatural influence to escape responsibility. However, the judge does allow some evidence from the Glatzel case to be entered into the record, acknowledging that it may provide context for Arne's state of mind. The trial proceeds. Witnesses testify to Arne's character, his gentleness, his lack of violence, his love for Debbie, his protective relationship with David. They testify to the changes they observed in the months before the attack. The prosecution presents its case: a young man who attacked his landlord, who caused his death, who must be held accountable regardless of any claimed supernatural influence. On November 24, 1981, the jury returns a verdict. Arne Cheyenne Johnson is convicted of first-degree manslaughter. He is sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison. The demonic possession defense formally has failed, but the case has succeeded in something else. It has forced a legal system, a media landscape, and a skeptical public to confront a question most prefer to ignore. What if demonic possession is real? And if it is real, how does a society built on reason and evidence respond? Arne serves approximately 5 years before being released on parole. During his imprisonment, Debbie Glatzel visits regularly. The Warrens remain in contact with the family. When Arne is released, he and Debbie marry. They build a life together, away from the cameras, away from the headlines. Ed Warren references the case for the rest of his career. For him, it represents the ultimate proof that demonic forces do not confine themselves to haunted houses or possessed objects. They can target human beings. They can drive ordinary people to extraordinary acts. They can turn a gentle young man into an instrument of violence and then retreat, leaving confusion and death in their wake. The danger, Ed argues, is not just spiritual. It is physical, legal, criminal. The Arne Johnson case remains singular in American legal history. No other murder trial has formally raised demonic possession as a defense. Legal textbooks reference it. Theologians debate it. Paranormal researchers study it. In 1983, author Gerald Brittle publishes The Devil in Connecticut, documenting the Glatzel possessions and the Johnson trial in detail. In 2021, the case becomes the foundation for The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, introducing a new generation to the story. Whether one accepts the supernatural explanation or views the case through a lens of psychology, trauma, or manipulation, the documented facts remain. A child experienced months of phenomena that clergy members deemed demonic. Religious interventions were conducted. A young man challenged the entity. That young man then experienced behavioral changes. An attack occurred that witnesses described as dissociative. A trial attempted to introduce demonic possession as a legal defense, and a man served years in prison for an act he claimed was not his own. The case file remains open in the Warren archives. Photographs, recordings, testimony transcripts, news clippings. The evidence is there for anyone willing to examine it. The conclusions are left to the viewer. If you found this case compelling, subscribe to Vanishing Roads for more documented paranormal investigations from around the world. This story was created with AI assistance based on documented case files. All events reference real investigations and reported incidents.